pandemic, so we have to put on a mask. So this ship is stopping at a dock. Yes. And we will have to travel maybe a little bit further to the waters, and so when it is necessary, we have to drive there. So we were just briefed about this system and some of the rules and principles, and it's very simple. And on the cell phone, on the laptop, you will be able to receive the information. So it's very convenient. And also for the research and development department, and they have to be grateful to your work because you are the actual law enforcers. So can you introduce to us your law enforcement in the past? Well, before this campaign was launched, we mainly rely on a different system. We have to get on board those ships manually, and it's not very targeted, and it's featuring a very low efficiency. So with this AIS-VDL system, we are able to identify all sorts of information through the system, so we can dramatically improve the law enforcement efficiency. So in 2012, I think it was in the Bohai Gulf in Tianjin port, and we were on a program, and the program introduces the work of law enforcers on the waters, and so your work is pretty difficult. You have to get on board the ship, and you have to climb the soft ladders, and this is conducted not knowing the willingness of cooperation from the people on the ship. And so now you just mentioned that we are able to locate the evidence so that it can improve your efficiency of law enforcement. So this is also helping you to show respect to the ships that you are patrolling about. So it's just like you are a traffic police and you pull over a car and you ask the driver to show his identification. And so it's so simple nowadays. And so we just received the information that there is some radio error of the ship, and as Mr. Yang has mentioned, that the radio call or the radio number is just like the name of a ship, just like the name of a person. If you cannot call someone by its correct name, and you won't be able to identify his illicit behaviors. So in your law enforcement practice, and what are the usual errors that you encounter? So in our patrol, we identified some situation. For example, the AIS system was manually turned off, and this is generating a lot of inconveniences because the AIS can tell us the location of the ship, and if you turn that off, we won't be able to locate you. So is this illicit behavior? Yes, definitely. And there are other illicit behaviors, some simple ones. For example, there are some documentation errors, and some of the documentations are not correct, and they are not keeping a record on their log, and they're not noting down the errors on the log. So what if you run out of electricity? So on a ship, it's guaranteed by dual generators. So what is this ship? So this is a maritime patrol ship, and it just completed its mission. So if we are able to locate a ship on waters, and then we just take one of those patroller ships and get to the ship, yes. So the AIS is pretty widely used on waters, and so the AIS-VDL system is just developed, and it's now in use in Huanghua and in North China Sea, and later it will spread to China's Eastern Sea and also the South China Sea. So it will be able to become part of a wider web. So which means that you can rely on this system to obtain information of almost every ship. Yes. So this is the ship that we're going to get on board, and this is the number 2 of a oil ship. So it's very good today because it's parking at the dock, and we don't need to take the ship to the water and get on board. So it's very convenient. And I remember the last time I was doing a program, it was pretty windy on the ocean, and you have to grab the ladders very firmly, and the wind is pushing you on a deck very hard, and it's very difficult for you to climb up on board. So you will have to communicate with the ship staff first. So they have to take your temperature, and those staff sailors working on the ship. Welcome on board. So this is the daily patrolling work that we do. And so how many ships do you have to investigate on a daily basis? Well, it depends. It depends on the staffing of different departments, and at the busiest time of the year, we are able to cover 7 to 8 ships on a daily basis. I'm referring only to one bureau of the Law Enforcement Administration, and at the Tianjin Maritime Safety Administration, we have 7 such bureaus, and we are now at the Nanjiang jurisdiction of the administration, and here we have a very large frequency and density of the ships, and so that is why we have a very heavy patrolling work. So this is where the AIS system is installed. And yes, so this is the place you install all those devices and systems. All right, so you just do your work, and we will be recording. So I'm a patrol officer from the Tianjin Maritime Safety Administration. Let me show you my identification. So today we are doing a routine inspection, and let me first give you some basic instructions. Can you maybe show us your identification and your license? So each and every time when we get on board a ship, we have to ask the staff to show us their identification and license. And since the radio order campaign was launched, we also asked the staff to show us their radio licenses and different systems. And so before getting on board, we already know that there is some error at the radio code. And in June, we had a lot of such campaigns, and we have actually worked out the list we have to go through to do the inspection. And it's only reflecting a anomaly of the radio color, but there might be other issues not identified by the system, but we have to cover those problems as well. So now what the patroller is holding is the navigation license. This is the radio license of the ship. So may I ask you to confirm your license number? So this is the identification number. So in our patrolling, we found out that some of the radio license of the ships are not actually approved, and this constitutes as a illicit behavior, and because it has to be approved by a local authority. Now we are looking at some of the systems and devices of the ship. So is it possible that there are some default numbers and settings, and so it might be wrong in the first place? Yes, it's possible, and we have identified some of these problems. For example, in our patrolling, we found out that some of the license is showing that the ship has the length of 1 1,000 meters, but in reality, it's just 20 meters. So which means that you can go without this data, but you cannot put out wrong data on a system, and you cannot just give us wrong data. Correct. You have to fill in this data, each and every one of them, and each device they have for each device it goes with a manual instruction. Now, we as patrollers, we have the obligation to go to each and every ship to verify this data as true and correct to the reality of the ship. So here you are lacking a radio number of the ship. So that is why it's showing void or empty on the system, and you have to actually copy this number manually on this documentation. And if your number is 002, you have to copy the number from the system onto this documentation. And also, you're not registering the true length of the ship. And this is the static information, but can you show us the dynamic information of the ship? So now let's take a look at the nautical whereabouts and the different locations. So how many people do you have on board? We have 7. And the water depth is 2.5 meters, no problem. What is the millage number? When you're actually sailing on the water, you have to open and activate this part of the system. Can we take a look at the other systems, the other dynamic information? May I ask the captain to show us the AIS certificate? So everything's here. So just now our patroller has identified some of the problems. For example, the length of the ship is not correct. So from the AIS-VDL system, we can just identify one problem. But in reality, when you get on board, you could possibly identify more problems. And for example, this ship does not have a radio number, and so that is why it's not showing on a system. And if you don't have this number, don't simply give us a wrong number. And the AIS system is able to tell us the state of the ship, and other ships will also be able to see this information so that they understand the state of your ship. And if you don't have a correct AIS information with your ship, and you may jeopardize your ship by colliding with other ships. So because when you are sailing on the ocean, you have to know each other, know yourself, and also know others. You have to know the information of other ships as well, so as to prevent collision. So that is exactly the purpose of our patrolling and the law enforcement campaigns. And we started with one fundamental purpose, which is to guarantee the safety of navigation. So on the ocean waters, there are some spots with very low signal. Does that affect our law enforcement? No, it does not affect that, because we are relying on radio. We're not relying on internet or the network. So the AIS-VDL system is also relying on radio? Correct. So in the first phase, we're just going to look at your AIS, and then can I take a look at your radio receiver? So it's not very good weather today. It's a little windy, but to us this is perfect weather already. The maritime law enforcers, we have to go against the weather, and the worse the weather is, the more engaged we have to be. So a couple of findings: you have to maintain that your AIS system is on all the time when you are sailing, and also you have to guarantee that the written documentation goes along with the information shown on the system. So what are the problems identified? So we have already reported to the captain those problems that we have identified and how to rectify, and we just told the deputy captain who is in charge of the radio system to manually operate the system so that we can stay assured that this can go without a problem in the future. And if you have behaviors that violates our regulation, then we will have to punish them. And so if there is some problem regarding to the device, and sometimes they will have to maybe get in touch with the supplier of the device. So we're just looking at whether the operator on board is able to manually operate this system. So the manual operation capacity of the staff on board is very critical. Because in your daily work, we will have to use a lot of the channels for rescue missions, and a lot of the times those rescue channels are occupied by those wrongdoers, by those ships that are sending wrong information. And so what if you point out the problem, but they are not able to rectify immediately? Yeah, this happens, and we can do some training. So what about those illicit behaviors on purpose? For example, smuggling. How do you handle those behaviors? In Tianjin, we have identified such wrongdoings, and some ships closed off their AIS signal on purpose. And so we would dispatch a patrolling ship, and because it's not parking on a dock, and so we identified the smuggling behavior, and then we immediately reported this information to the smuggling control office. So that was the very first such case identified by our bureau. So with the AIS-VDL system, you're telling me that it's a lot easier to identify such problems. Yes, correct. And for some of the problems, we'll be able to know immediately. Have you identified some situation where the ships are using wrong AIS? Yes, exactly. And so you're actually seeing that one ship is registering multiple AIS systems or signals. So far, we haven't identified such problem in our part. So this is only part of our patrolling efforts. And when we get on board, we have to screen a lot of information. And for us to complete one ship, it takes 3 to 4 hours. But you just told me that at the busiest time, you will have to cover 6 to 7 ships. Yes, because we have different teams working on different ships simultaneously. So we have identified some problems, and through the AIS system, we are able to identify a problem and locate the ship, and then when we get on board, we can identify more problems. I think this is an area where the general public has very limited knowledge about, and so I do hope that the media people can give us more coverage, so you can spread the knowledge out to a larger audience. All right, and we'll get out of this console, and because it will take some time, and so we just maybe get off here. So when you're doing law enforcement, most of these captains are very cooperative. Yes, most of them. Question: what if the captain is not cooperative? answer. So we have some mechanisms going on, and they have to cooperate with our law enforcement, and we can work in collaboration with the local public security and the local authority. And if we identify violent objection of law enforcement actions, and then they will be punished. So for this campaign of law enforcement, we are working in collaboration with a lot of authorities. So we give them an order of rectification, but do you give them a time duration? And for example, how soon should they be able to repair the system or the device? And so when they have repaired the device, and do they have to report back to you? So we have different types of inspections. For example, when we are exercising a safety inspection, then we are going to issue a safety report. On a safety report, we can summarize all the problems that we have identified, and so we give them instructions on rectifications. And if some of the problems can be rectified on site immediately, for example, the radio device system, then for some problems that can be that cannot solved on site, and then we have an instruction that when the problem is solved, they need to notify us, and then we will send another inspection team to guarantee that it's solved. So we basically cannot allow a ship to go to free waters with a problem, with a safety problem. So before coming here, and we were actually briefed by a technician, and who told us that on the AIS system, you have a lot of different information. For example, the IMO number, and if you're not traveling an international route, when you are traveling here at the domestic route, and so you're not using the IMO number, and you just need to delete the IMO number. And so there are a lot of those details which the captain may not know, and so it may constitute as a safety risk. So it's very lucky today we don't need to travel onto the waters, and we just identify the problem on the dock, and maybe later you will have to get on board a patrol ship and go to the open waters. And so, all right, we won't take too much of your time, and we are very thankful to you. And from the Navigation and Guarantee Center of the North China Sea, we were briefed about the details of this system, and we have been struggling for a very long time. And it's just like, when everybody has a cell phone, you need to have a network that gets everybody connected. And so now we have the AIS system. So we have in place this AIS-VDL system, which is a surveillance system which can tell us the different illicit behavior information of all the ships. And you are playing a very critical role as law enforcers on waters. So you can improve the safety of navigation. You can also dramatically improve your efficiency of law enforcement. All right, this is the end of today's program, and we sincerely hope that this system can help those law enforcers to dramatically improve their efficiency, and we sincerely hope that through this system we can reduce the total amount of the problems and improve the safety of navigation. All right, this is the end of today's program.